I'm able to by no means forget about that day, in contrast to the calm, recurring days I had grown acquainted with. The entirety modified and instantaneous. That morning I awakened as standard. I made myself a cup of coffee and stood by means of the window, looking the world outdoor. I used to be 61 years old, but there has been a part of me that had usually felt younger, refusing to simply accept the truth of growing older that I had taken such care to manage. I exercised regularly, and whenever I looked in the reflect, I attempted to look a person who'd become nonetheless vibrant and attractive, but a void lived inside me. Not anything could fill it. Ethan? The transport man's name was Ethan. Whenever I noticed him, I felt something odd, an inexplicable appeal. He'd changed into 22 years vintage. Possibly it become his youthful energy that had drawn me to him over the past few months. I store ordering matters online, books, domestic decor, occasionally absolutely useless gadgets, just to hear the doorbell ring and notice his status there. I kept telling myself it became irrelevant, but my coronary heart raced whenever. That day, as I stepped outside, I noticed Ethan delivering packages inside the neighborhood. He rode beyond me on his motorbike. Unexpectedly, his tires skidded and he fell right in front of me. I screamed, my heart pounding. I dropped my bag and ran to him. His knee and elbow were badly scraped and the pain became evident on his face. But he nevertheless controlled to flash that smile. "Clara, I'm excellent." "It's not anything," he said in a deep voice, trembling barely. "Do not be ridiculous," I said firmly. "Do not inform me you're best. Come inside and let me take a glance." I helped him pull his motorbike onto the sidewalk. I supported him as we walked to my house. He hesitated at the start, however my insistence left him no choice. As soon as in, I led him to the sofa in my dwelling room. I grabbed my first aid kit and started out cleansing his wounds. My fingers were trembling, but I attempted to steady them so Ethan wouldn't word. As I worked, I could not assist, however, word his teens and energy up close. However, there has been also a sure adulthood in his expression that caught me off defend. "I am sorry to problem you want this, Clara," he stated with a smile. "Clearly, it's no longer a massive deal." I chuckled, trying to sound stern but unable to cover my smile. "You fall and hurt yourself, and you observed I am going to assist you to just rise up and go?" As I carried out the bandages, Ethan grew quiet. His eyes had been constant on me, and the air between us grew heavy. When I placed the bandage on his arm, our fingers brushed for a quick moment. That accidental contact intensified the silence among us. "Clara," he started hesitantly. "I failed to expect you to be so tight. The general public simply need me to drop off their bundle and go away." I looked at him and something shifted interior me. "You're no longer only a delivery guy, Ethan. I see the way you examine people, how being concerned you are, and actually, being around you makes me sense alive in a manner I have never felt in a long time." I admitted, my voice trembling slightly as my cheeks flushed. I couldn't take it again. Ethan's expression changed. There was a brand new determination in his eyes, accompanied by way of something undeniably magnetic. Slowly, he leaned nearer, his gaze never leaving mine. "You recognize," he said after a short silence, "the vicinity I am staying at is far from my task. The each-day trip is laborious. I've been thinking about locating a place nearer. However, the expenses are mannered too excessive." Whilst he said that, something stirred in me. I found out I should help him, and the notion gave me an odd feel of exhilaration. "Ethan," I said softly, however resolutely, "I have a small condo right subsequent to my house. It is now not rented out. In case you need, you could pass in for a very reasonable rate. It'll make things easier for you." Ethan looked at me really surprised. "Clara, you don't ought to be this kind," he stated, his voice tinged with disbelief. But I had already made up my thoughts. I knew in that second that the whole thing became about to trade, and it did. That day became step one in breaking the monotony of my existence. This tale was simply starting. At that second, the tension between us heightened. As I tended to his wounds, I held his arm, but my hand lingered on his pores and skin a little longer than necessary. For a short moment, my eyes traced his vast shoulders and strong arms. I noticed him looking me too carefully. His gaze traveled over my legs, my waist, my shoulders, and my heartbeat quickened. Although I attempted to disregard it, I was misplaced in that second. My arms trembled as I finished the bandage. Then, as I bent all the way down to pick up a fallen bandage, Ethan leaned down in the same moment and our arms by accident touched. We each iced up. The energy of that short touch made the silence among us even heavier. As I slowly stood up, our eyes met again. I tried to decipher his expression. There has been hesitation in his eyes, however, additionally something plain and appeal. "Clara," he said in a softer voice than I would ever heard from him. "I have to mention, I didn't anticipate you to be this kind. The majority just want me to drop off their package deal and leave. They wouldn't go out in their manner for a person like me. Certainly, I don't even think I deserve this plenty." Hearing those words made me lose my awareness for a second. I noticed something deep, something mature in this young guy. I tried to compose myself, forcing a small giggle. "Ethan, in case you pass into the apartment, it'll sense like I have been ready in an effort to take Ray all alongside," I said, easing the anxiety barely. Ethan appeared even greater amazed. "To be sincere, I want to move fast. My landlord is trying to evict me and that I nevertheless have deliveries to complete," he said in a barely rushed voice. He stood up quickly to leave, but paused to take my variety before heading out. The subsequent morning, I saw Ethan arrive in a large truck with of his friends. They started out moving his things into the apartment. Status with the aid of my window, I discovered myself watching him convey heavy bins with his strong, muscular fingers. I could not look away. Something stirred in me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. His younger strength, his dynamism, it was captivating. After a moment, I pulled myself collectively. I poured coffee right into a thermos and headed closer to them. "You have to all be exhausted," I said with a grin. "I'd really like to invite you all to dinner. Permits sit down and enjoy a very good meal." Ethan and his pals thanked me. However, Ethan stated, "Clara, it is clearly form of you. However, my friends ought to head lower back. It is an extended pressure." I felt a pang of unhappiness, however, hid it properly. Whilst evening got here, Ethan arrived by myself. Seeing him there, I felt a combination of surprise and pleasure. I greeted him with a grin. "Where are your friends?" He shrugged and gave me a small smile. "They had to depart. They could not live. I didn't want to depart you by myself tonight," he said. Hearing the one's words dispatched a wave of joy via me. The rest of the evening, our conversation deepened. At that moment, I found out this became the begin of something new. "To be honest," I said with a small smile, looking into Ethan's eyes, "I predicted all of you to come back. However, when you consider that it's simply you, I assume there's no damage in establishing a bottle of wine. I continually enjoy wine with dinner, Ethan." He backed my smile, his eyes fixed on me. "It's perfect. Wine and you? What more should I ask for?" he stated, igniting a small spark in me. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of purple wine and glasses, and brought them to the desk. As I opened the bottle, I tried not to note how Ethan changed into looking me, observing me as though looking to determine me out. But I could sense his gaze following my every flow. All through dinner, with the assist of a bit wine, our communication grew greater personal. "Loneliness," I said, taking a sip of wine. "Sometimes it's almost insufferable. It may power you mad. I have spent most of my existence dwelling for others, and now I recognize how a good deal time I've wasted." Ethan listened closely, his expression gentle and understanding. "Loneliness is difficult at any age. However, you, Clara, your own home, your cooking, even the manner you dress. The whole thing approximately you indicates so much care and attempt. You've got made yourself so beautiful. It is unfair that a person like you has to live on my own." Those words caught me off guard. It had been so long an account that everybody had spoken to me like that. My coronary heart raced as I seemed into his eyes, knowing that the relationship we had been building changed into something I hadn't felt in years. His words each surprised and deeply moved me. "Nobody," I said softly, "has stated whatever like that to me in years. My heart is pounding." "I apprehend what you mean. But every so often, irrespective of how difficult you try, no person notices." Ethan set his wine glass on the table and leaned in the direction of me, his gaze excessive and centered. "You're wrong," he stated in a low, resolute voice. "It is not possible not to observe you." The once phrases stirred something in me. Mixed with the wine, my heart and thoughts were at conflict. His eyes stayed locked on mine, and the way this young guy checked out me with such interest dispatched a shiver via me that I hadn't felt in a while. "Ethan, you're very type," I stated with a slight smile, though there was a tremble in my voice. I clasped my fingers in my lap, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from his. At that moment, the distance among us felt much smaller than it genuinely turned into. I have to be honest, he stated, all of a sudden, his voice deeper. After I came right here, I used to be simply looking for a clean begin. However, the greater I communicate to you, the greater I need to get to recognize you higher. There may be something distinct about you, Clara. It is like you bring a mild, something alive. Those words left me bowled over. The wine, the ecosystem, his gaze, all of it hit me without delay. I took a deep breath, however my heart turned into beating so rapid I could not loosen up. Ethan, I stated, blocking my eyes with his, you've got made this nighttime so unique. Nobody has made me feel like this in a long time. At that second, the anxiety between us reached its peak. As Ethan's eyes met mine, it was as if the arena stopped. Without wondering, caught in the magic of the moment, I leaned closer to him. Whilst our lips met, my heartfelt find it irresistible became approximately to burst. It wakened something in me that I had suppressed for years, but fact hit me like a wave. I pulled return quickly, my face flushed with embarrassment. My mind spiraled into chaos. This isn't always right, I whispered, keeping off his gaze. I stumbled in the direction of the kitchen to get away the typhoon within me. I hadn't found out Ethan had observed me until I felt his arms on my waist. His closeness stopped me in my tracks. Clara, he said in a low but firm voice. He lightly became me to stand him, his eyes locked onto mine, this time deeper, extra extreme. I could not breathe. I couldn't break out. My arms instinctively rested on his shoulders. His strong arms held me tightly as if we were the only human beings inside the world. Ethan broke the touch for a second and seemed into my eyes. Clara, do you really need this? He murmured, his dedication unraveling me completely. I nodded slightly, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, I said as his hand moved gently alongside my lower back. He guided me towards the bedroom. My heart raced with every step, my anticipation growing. As soon as in the bedroom, I sat on the brink of the mattress and Ethan stood before me for a moment. His eyes roamed over me and I observed the warmth in his gaze. I raised my arms to my shoulders, sliding the thin straps of my get-dressed down. The cloth slipped to my FT, leaving me prone. The admiration and choice in Ethan's eyes fueled me. For him, this moment changed into not like something I had dared to imagine in years. All that became left became to surrender absolutely to the tide of the night. As I laid again on the mattress, I caught a glimpse of myself in the replicate across the room. I seemed mature and welcoming in that second. Ethan gently located his hands on my shoulders, guiding me to lie down as he hovered above me. His eyes locked onto mine, his arms resting on my waist, transferring slowly. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in goodbye, something I had deeply overlooked. It didn't take lengthy for me to respond, letting out a legitimate that surprised even me. I failed to understand where to reach in my hands. It became as though I couldn't keep up with what I was feeling. The whole thing became so beautiful and it had been so ignored. The feelings overwhelming me have been intensified by way of the sheer depth of all of it. I closed my eyes, letting myself wander away in the moment. When I opened them to examine Ethan, I noticed him flushed and breathless. That sight excited me even more. I couldn't assist myself, murmuring a plea for it to happen again. Ethan, catching his breath, spoke back. I need it more than you do. That day he made me happier than I were in years. He appeared so secure lying beside me, his breathing calming. Eventually, I peeked at the ground beside the mattress, seeing our scattered garments, and that I smiled. I had neglected this so much. Ethan's breath graced my neck. The silence between us became filled best with the aid of the sound of our respiratory after everything that had passed off.